everyone, my name is Lydia, and I guess today I'm just going to be talking about, why we should appreciate stay-at-home moms more. I don't know. It might diverge into something else here, but I've just been thinking about this lately, just sort of about the whole aspect of being a stay-at-home mom and just how much that really entails. I'm not a stay-at-home mom, but I just got to thinking about it and how important it is, and some aspects that I just don't think we talk about enough. And I do fear a little bit that, the days of stay-at-home moms are, well, they're becoming less frequent, that's for sure. I shouldn't say they're coming to a complete close or stop. There's definitely stay-at-home moms out there right now. But it's just becoming less and less frequent and less common. But it's so important. And I think we're right now learning so much about child development and inner child healing and just even healing our own traumas and how to move forward, raising the next generation with a better outlook and mindset. I guess every generation to a degree does that, where they want to make it a better future for the next generation. But the amount of knowledge that has been released to us over the past few years now even has been groundbreaking, truly, on how to self-regulate and heal from trauma and from different upbringings. I mean, it's quite amazing. And it's such a beautiful time, really, of the internet right now, where you literally can find videos about how to parent in the specific way that you want to parent. It's so cool. Gentle parenting is skyrocketing right now, which is awesome. There's just so many different things right now that I feel like could be so beneficial to stay-at-home moms in the future. And it's so sad that the stay-at-home moms are becoming less and less with our economy, yet the information is increasing on how to raise a generation better. So it's just kind of been on my mind. It's sort of interesting to think about. I've got coffee today. It's a decaf. So not as bad, but it's the flavor. Sometimes I'm just I just really am craving the flavor of coffee, I don't know. Some people they look down on the decaf people, right? But sometimes you just gotta have some decaf in your home for just in case, for emergencies. What if you're really craving coffee around 3 p.m., okay? And you're like, my adrenals can't take however many milligrams of caffeine there are in coffee right now. Anyway. But there are so many aspects to being a stay-at-home mom that people just don't talk about enough. Because, we all know that the stay-at-home mom's job, most of us know that the stay-at-home mom's job is quite a big job. You are raising children and you are taking care of the home. You're literally cleaning the home and taking care of children. That's no small task, especially when children are naturally messy. So it's a constant, your job never really ends, when you're a stay-at-home mom. But some other aspects of it that I think we don't talk about enough are how much knowledge the stay-at-home mom really needs to even raise her children. And this isn't to put any moms down out there. If you're a mom and you don't do something that I talk about, or you weren't raised this way, or whatever. I'm just talking about in general, there are so many potential aspects of being a stay-at-home mom, that, you know, if you work, it's that much harder to accomplish these tasks when you're working. Not to say that it's impossible if you're a working mom. That's not to say that any of these things can't be possible for you. But I just say that because, I mean, being a mom in general is, you know, it's quite the task. So I don't want to put anyone down or make anybody feel less than for not doing these things or whatever. But, I mean, moms out there have to keep record to some degree of the milestones of their children, and also understanding what could be a potential trigger for the kid in the future, or a potential warning sign for something in the future. And now with social media, you know, we are far more culturally aware of potential signs of mental illness and even just learning disabilities. It's like, is my kid neurodivergent, and are there signs showing up, and is this something that I'm going to have to keep tabs of, and even having to sift through whether this is an immediate thing I have to address, or is this something that I have to keep in the back of my mind. I mean, the mind of a mother is somewhat like a sponge. I mean, they have to just absorb all of this information to some degree about their child. And that's not even to, you know, get into the child's interests and remembering what foods this kid likes versus this kid. I mean, if you have multiple kids, it's even more so, right? It's like, okay, my kid likes this week. This kid does not like this week. Okay, but now they swapped. Okay, now they're on the same page. Now I'm allowed to make this meal. Now I'm not allowed. Like, you know, it's like, I mean, and not even just about meals, just in general. What does my kid like? What is my kid interested in at this moment? How do I make their interest in this be the best for them? You know? Like, okay, they're interested in this. I could just passively let them be interested in that, and that's great too. But like, also, how do I maybe help them in their interest in this, or guide them in the right direction, so that way maybe this can be a good learning opportunity for them? I mean, there's so much of that, and allowing them to have a multifaceted experience, you know? And kids gain different insecurities, different fears, different things that they maybe learned that aren't true, that you have to unteach your child. It's so much of it is circumstantial as well. And it's like, it's crazy that mothers, stay-at-home moms especially, are absorbing all of this at all times, you know, and having to tally up all of this stuff. And it sounds like it's like, oh, this is simple, but these things can run on for extended periods of time. Like, okay, especially if you have multiple kids, like I said, it's like, okay, well, this kid really had an incident at the park the other day where, you know, I've been noticing a change in behavior, and it looks like they have a fear of this now. Okay, now how do I address this so that way this is no longer a continual fear? Even if at the moment it doesn't really affect you, doesn't really affect your kids' everyday life. If I could think of an example, that'd be great, but I don't know if I could. You know? And I think a lot of us grew up in a time where that wasn't the case. Even if you had a stay-at-home mom, I mean, I think a lot of us grew up in a different era where a lot of this knowledge wasn't readily available to us. And so it's just sort of interesting how we're living in a different era where we're able to think about this stuff, and people are putting it in digestible ways where we can think about it and implement it. It's just quite interesting, you know? Especially if you know, are able to put your kid in classes or have them learn a certain skill. right? And you notice maybe they're developing a fear of, a fear of measuring up to the other kids, right? And so they're not, they might be doing a great job when they're at home around you, but then you notice right when they become involved in a class or something, they get a little bit of stage fright in a way with their activity, and it's like, okay, how do I deal with this? Even though it's not necessarily affecting you, and it's not necessarily affecting the kid, like they're still doing it, they're still going to the classes, but that is affecting your kid long term, to some degree, or it could, even if they grow out of it, it could. And all of this stuff moms have to keep on their forefront, really. And it's like, wow, knowing your kid, knowing human beings on such a level where you are helping them develop is like a million jobs in one. It's really quite a task. And I think that aspect we don't really think too much of. Like, oh yeah, yes, you're taking care of the kids, you're feeding them, you are cleaning the house, you are taking them to the park, you're essentially babysitting all the time. I think people who don't really think highly of stay-at-home moms, it's kind of maybe their mindset is like, well, you're essentially like babysitting these kids all day, right? I mean, what do? You sit there and you make sure they don't hurt themselves, and you just kind of stay out of their way and make sure they're alive. And it's like, man, there is so much more than that. So much more than that it's like, I mean, that's the minimum. That's the minimum, is making sure your kid's alive, and not harming themselves or what have you. There's just so much to it. And I am so, concerned in a way that's going away. The stay-at-home moms are going away, because, yes, moms can do that while working, but oh boy, it's like doing 2 jobs or more. 2 full draining jobs, and one of them never ends. One of them never truly ends. It's wild. It's really wild, People do it, and they do it well, but it is like, oh boy, hats off to you, hats off to you. It's wild. And I'm like, how do we as a culture, as a society, change our economy to where we can help more moms stay home with their children? It's like, are those days so long gone? And oh boy, isn't that just like kind of crazy, kind of heartbreaking in a way, because it's like we finally live in a gentle parenting era, and wouldn't it be fabulous if we had an abundance of stay-at-home moms in this generation with this type of kindness outlook and knowledge on how to self-heal and self-regulate. It's like we almost could be an unstoppable generation, almost, with that knowledge and with the attentiveness that we deserve. It's crazy. Interesting, right? But I don't know. There's also something to be said about generational wealth. I mean, that is completely, almost completely plummeted, unless you are of the few that can provide that. But realistically, generational wealth is never talked about. I'm not in circles that even talk about generational wealth, but I do find it valuable. And it's interesting. It's something that I feel like I can only hope that eventually the economy will build itself back up someday, somehow, some way. I'm not hopeful. But even if a few of us who strive for it can accomplish generational wealth one day, that's such a blessing. It's such a blessing. And I don't mean generational wealth in the sense of like giving your kids literally everything, handing them everything, and preventing them from learning anything or lifting a finger. Quite the opposite, actually. I'm saying generational wealth in the sense of you are able to provide them with so much knowledge and so many experiences at a young age, and at the right time in their life when they are, you know, ready and you are gone, you are able to bestow upon them an empire or a steady, you know, income, so that way they can do something quite beautiful with it that, you know, you weren't even able to do. I don't know. I think that's quite valuable, and people don't talk about that anymore. People don't talk about generational wealth. They don't talk about what that really could mean. I think we've lost culturally the meaning of generational wealth. Like, we look at that and we think like, oh, you mean like handing your kid everything, right? You mean nepotism. And it's like, really, that's quite the opposite. Because it's like, I mean, even if you build up your wealth to one degree, and by wealth, I mean, wealth can mean so much, right? It doesn't just have to be financial wealth. It can mean so much. And I mean, I think so much of that ideology of generational wealth is lost on our generation, to where we don't even know what that means anymore. We can't even fathom a culture which allows that. We can't even fathom the positives of that, because it just seems so far-fetched. And it's thinking so far into the future, generational wealth is. It's like, no, it's not just for me. It's not just allowing comfortability for me, but it's allowing comfortability for the generation after me, so they can... Oh, my dog just walked in, sorry. Is that ominous with the door? The door like open like that? Come on up, Soph. Where was I? But it's also, you know, providing that comfortability for the next generation and the next generation, which also means that they can expand on it, and they can expand on it, and knowledge is expanded on. And soon you create this whole lineage of people who were able to do so much in their lives. So much beauty came of that, you know, or could come of that. Of course, it's out of your hands at some point, but it is interesting. It's like bestowing abilities to live life, and to experience knowledge, and to experience what it's like to accomplish your soul's innermost desires, and the things that make you really tick in life. Like, you're bestowing those abilities onto your future children. I think that's so valuable, but yet it's so detached from where we are, you know? So detached. It's interesting to think about where our culture is right now, and just kind of hoping that maybe one day it'll get back there, maybe. I'm not hopeful about it, but maybe at least a few of us out here who value these lifestyles and value these I don't even know, who value these lifestyles. Maybe if we value them enough, we can bring them back, or at least bring them back for us or our small community or something or other. But it's hard, even when you're striving here so hard. The economy's shot, so it's sort of like, how do you accomplish these things that seem like distant goals, right? But keep striving. I'm going to keep striving, for these goals, for a better community, a better lifestyle, and if not for the community, at least for my own life. And let me tell you, if I ever, whenever I do accomplish generational wealth, and somehow generational wealth whilst being a stay-at-home mom, oh, believe me, I will be sharing my knowledge, because I just, and I encourage you to do the same. If you know how to build generational wealth whilst being a stay-at-home mom, or you, I don't know, or at least if you're just a stay-at-home mom, or if you just have generational wealth, bestow your knowledge upon us. Bestow your knowledge, because, man, these are just lost ways of living, lost goals even, and they're becoming further and further away from economic reality. But those are my thoughts of today.